Number 5 on this list is the MLK tapes. Martin Luther King Jr. is best known for being a leader in a huge civil rights movement. He's remembered as a hero, but the FBI back in the day definitely didn't think about him as such. Grunge says, "You know Martin Luther King Jr. as a crusading civil rights activist and probably one of the greatest Americans who ever lived." That's pretty much the exact opposite of how the establishment saw him in the 1960s. King was regarded on Capitol Hill as little more than a communist agitator. So sure was J. Edgar Hoover that King was one of the bad guys, that he authorized illegal bugging and wiretapping of King. Hence the infamous sex tape. In 1964, the FBI edited together a highlights reel of King's extramarital affairs and sent it to his wife, accompanied by a note urging King to kill himself. The Hollywood Reporter has the story. The tape is reported to have been a collage of King's infidelities, possibly spliced in with a likely fake clip of him propositioning a man. Although the tape has since vanished, the originals it was stitched together from haven't. Smithsonian reports that a 1977 court order means that their content will be unsealed and made public sometime in 2027. For me, what makes this tape so terrifying is the fact that the FBI made it. They literally thought that it was their duty to destroy those who were trying to fight for equality. The FBI are supposed to have our backs as citizens, and it shouldn't matter what color skin you are or what you believe in. Clearly, that did matter to the Bureau several decades ago though, which is just the worst thing to think about. Number 4 on this list is Deep in the Woods. Back in 2006, there were 2 men who disappeared off the face of the earth. No one knew what happened to them or where they went. That picture got a lot clearer though when this video popped up. In 2007, a YouTube channel called LH posted this clip that was presumably filmed back in 2006. The video follows the exploits of these 2 young men in what the viewer is led to believe is their last moments on planet Earth. The 2 men start out by driving their car into the woods. They pass by a gate and then get to another one which they can't seem to open for some reason. They then get their flashlights and proceed into the darkness on foot. This is where it all goes to hell though. In the clip that I'm about to show you, we will see these 2 men walking through the woods and hear a loud animalistic noise. Then something will jump out at them, so fair warning. So as we can see, a creature lunged forward at the 2 men and got them running back to the car. Then the camera dropped and presumably this was the end of our 2 lads. If we kept playing that clip, then we would have seen one more thing, which is one of the men falling before the camera and then getting dragged off. So I think it's safe to say that these 2 guys didn't make it out of this battle unscathed. What they were doing there, what this thing was, and what ultimately happened to them is all unknown though. For all we know, they got dragged back to this thing's lair and they could still be there today. Number 3 on this list is Joseph James DeAngelo. Joseph James DeAngelo is a horrible serial killer who was only recently captured and incarcerated. Grunge says it wasn't until the 21st century that the Golden State Killer was given his notorious nickname. Before that, he'd been known as the original Night Stalker. But whether he was known to the public as one serial attacker or 2, the Golden State Killer was infamous. From 1974 to 1985, police believe he murdered at least 13 people and assaulted at least 40 more. And he used technology to terrify his victims, calling up those he'd already assaulted to threaten them with worse. It's from one of these sadistic calls that the taunt tape emerges. Recorded by local police and handed over to the FBI, The audio tape was released onto the internet in 2016 as part of a renewed effort by law enforcement to catch the killer. To call it chilling would be a disservice to sub-zero temperatures. Over 34 awful seconds, the Golden State Killer breathes heavily into the phone, telling a previous victim he'll come back and kill her. It's not even the worst either. Another tape released by the FBI was an interview conducted in 1977 with the killer's first victim. It's a painful 5 minutes of hearing exactly how a monster goes about his work. Thanks to California's statute of limitations, it's also our only record of a crime he cannot be tried for. Sometimes Lady Justice is less blind than she is MIA. Now, I'm not gonna play any of these tapes for you guys because I honestly think they just get a little bit too real, and I don't really want to go there. For a long time, the FBI, they kind of felt the same way. It was decades after the murders had actually taken place that they decided to release the actual tape that they had had. They must have had the tape the whole time and just thought it best not to show the public. This renewed effort to find the killer did actually pay off though, which is amazing to see. Joseph James D'Angelo was arrested in 2018 due to some DNA evidence that linked him to the crimes. He was 72 years old at the time, but eventually pled guilty to some of the crimes and was sentenced to life in prison without any possibility of parole. Justice did finally come through, but it honestly took way too long and should have happened far earlier. Number 2 on this list is the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. If this is true, then this is a very disturbing reality, guys. Grunge says, prior to 9/11, the most significant date in World Trade Center history was February 26, 1993. That was the day Islamic fundamentalists exploded a gigantic car bomb underneath the Twin Towers, killing 6 people and injuring over 1,000 and causing millions of dollars of damage. The cell that carried out the attack turned out to contain a mere 7 people, one of whom was an FBI informant. During the lengthy investigation into the bombing, tapes made by the informant emerged which appeared to suggest the FBI could have stopped the attack before it happened. At the time, the tapes were as embarrassing for the feds as pictures of J. Edgar Hoover wearing a pink tutu. Although the majority of the tapes were made after the WTC bombing, the informer can clearly be heard on them discussing with his handler how he'd previously purchased the timer for the WTC bomb as part of his undercover work using federal money. Although the attackers ultimately didn't use that specific timer, the mere fact that the FBI signed off on its purchase should have set off alarm bells from the J. Edgar Hoover building to Quantico. Perhaps even freakier, the tapes made after the bombing appear to show nothing but agents covering their asses for the attack and blaming their supervisors. So the FBI were literally purchasing parts to bombs to help these people pull off this bombing. Why didn't they step in and stop them? I understand that you want to do it at the right time to gain as much intel as possible, but clearly you can't let them go through with something like this. Like, obviously the intel is not worth the lives of any innocent people. Once again, guys, the FBI and agencies like that are supposed to have our backs and we are supposed to trust them. Stories like this really make me question that. And finally, number 1 on this list is Q042. Q042 is one of the most chilling tapes that has ever been recorded. Grunge says, on November 18th, 1978, paranoid cultist Jim Jones managed to talk nearly an entire American commune in Guyana into committing suicide by drinking cyanide-laced Kool-Aid. The gigantic pile of over 900 bodies that resulted remains one of the largest peacetime massacres of US civilians behind only 9/11. If you've ever wondered how a single man, no matter how charismatic, managed to talk nearly 1,000 people into killing themselves and their children, wonder no more. Deep in the FBI vaults, a tape officially known as Q042 exists, but it has another name too, one more suited to its contents. Featuring the speech by Jones that preceded the People's Temple committing mass suicide, it's better known as the death tape. There is a transcript, and to call it heavy reading would be like saying war and peace is someone on the long side. What's scary about the transcript is how rational everyone seems to be. By the time we reach the end, people are openly crying even as they drink the poison that will kill them. I have never watched this tape personally, and I don't think I ever want to. The Jonestown massacre is one of the most messed up things to ever happen in recent history, and watching it unfold on video is something I never want to do. Number 5 on this list is the Paraguayan tape. So there really isn't any given name for this, but I'm calling it the Paraguayan tape because this footage was discovered in Paraguay several years ago. The footage only really surfaced a few years ago, but it was actually filmed way before that. This footage was taken back in 1994 by what looks to be some children. The clip itself is an amalgamation of a bunch of several second long clips that don't really make a cohesive narrative but are just super eerie. This, also coupled with the audio, makes this clip extremely scary. The audio is a bunch of screams and cries and weird noises that don't even sound human. Some people have chalked it up to being the poor recording equipment, but I really don't think so. Let's play you guys 30 seconds of this clip so you can get an idea what this thing is all about. So that's the first 30 seconds of the video, and as we can see, it's just super creepy. Also, at the end of the clip there, it looked like several teens were running to help one of their friends up off the ground. So either that friend tripped and fell or was attacked by something, and it's tough to say. No one knows what happened to these kids who recorded this or why they made it in the first place. Although I would wager a bet that something bad probably transpired. Everything that I've seen here looks like all the telltale signs of demonic intervention. Let's just hope that this clip wasn't actually the last documented video of these people alive.
Number 4. I feel fantastic. Now, if you're a student in horrifying, unexplained YouTube clips and legends, perhaps you've been unfortunate enough to run into this one before. But if you haven't, I'm sorry. It's been years since I Feel Fantastic first graced the YouTube algorithm, and yet we're still no closer to understanding, uncovering what's going on here. The video is pretty short and sweet, but I doubt you'll actually be able to finish it. It's a mannequin-looking android named Tara, singing her little song for the camera. Now, she's got the chutzpah down pat, but her natural stage presence could use a little bit of work, maybe her tone too, because she kind of sings discordantly and completely terrifying. It sounds like the kind of thing that you would hear a few minutes before you wake up strapped to an ice-cold slab operating table in a dank basement. The robot, we know, was built by John Bergeron, and that's about all we know. He envisioned his beloved Tara as being an android pop sensation, kind of like what I think Grimes might be. And I really don't want to shut down Tara's career before it's blossomed, but she's got some serious hurdles to solve first. The incredibly unsettling nature of the video caused speculators to run wild with theories about what they were seeing. The most extreme ones go so far as to suggest John was a murderer, and Tara was a mannequin wearing the clothes of his victims. Some suggest he's just a very strange man who wanted a singing companion in his home. In all the years since this clip went viral, we've never got a follow-up on this bizarre video, and I doubt we're ever going to get more answers on this one. I wonder if Tara's still out there, if she's still singing proudly, or if she's rotting in a basement somewhere. I just hope she's still practicing, you know?
Number 3 on this list is The Possession. This next clip is from 2 decades ago in Portugal. The YouTuber Chills has actually covered this video before, and even he is pretty terrified of it. The video was filmed on an old camcorder back in 2001. The quality is pretty atrocious, which can be expected from an old camera. The video is centered around several young boys hanging out. It starts off with them just innocently playing, but then they end up doing something they really shouldn't have. They try to contact the dead. As we've seen time and time again, regardless of how you attempt to do this, it usually turns out pretty bad. And that's pretty much what happens here with these boys. In the clip that I'm about to show you, one of the boys gets possessed by some type of demon and falls to the ground convulsing.
Peraí, ó, André. Peraí, ó, olha aí. Opa, calma. Sim, opa, não brinques tu também, meu. Mas meu, Sustino. Ainda mais gajo não sabe. Opa, calma-se mesmo, assim. Sustino. Não meto só.
Eventually the boy gets up and he's no longer himself. His voice is not his own and the words he's saying are not the ones that he would normally say. It's clear that he's been possessed by some type of demon. Now this video of theirs is almost 40 minutes long and that possession took place at the 5-minute mark. After he gets possessed, he runs out of the home and the lights turn off. The kids are obviously super frightened and don't know what's going on. What ultimately happened to this guy and the demon that possessed him, we may never know for sure. Number 2 on this list is the Masked Man. This is really chilling stuff and was apparently released by the police in an attempt to find the people involved. Once again, we have a clip centered around 2 boys and once again, they go missing. This time though it happens in 2005 in Croatia and we also get a far better view of the man responsible for the disappearances in this one as well. The clip starts out innocently enough with 2 lads just messing around in the park. At one point though they see a dark figure in the distance. At this time though they aren't on high alert and don't think much of it. Fast forward a bit though and he starts to approach them.
Dobro, daj. Nemam pojma, daj ga šutni, daj ga šutni.
Neću se. Mislim da je pijan, neću.
Ok, mislim da idemo ovdje. Ajmo mi odavde, ajmo.
Ti mu vidio facu, snima ga, snima ga.
Pa naravno da sam vidio facu, vidio sam.
Nisam skužio, čekaj, kaj je bilo?
So at first, they didn't think it was anything, but then the creepy man came after them. This isn't the end of the story though, as the clip continues. The guys are now in a different area recapping what just happened. Soon afterwards though, the man shows up again, and now the gents are starting to really get concerned. They run away and get to an apartment building. This is where we believe the disappearance actually occurs.
Creepy. Koji kat?
5. kat.
Just for a split second we saw him. The man with the mask right in the elevator waiting for the guys. No one knows what happened to these guys and who that masked man was. All we have is this tape and a very sad and scary story. And finally, number 1 on this list is the Paris catacombs. The Paris catacombs is one of the creepiest collection of tunnels in the entire world. They were built many years ago and have thousands of dead remains from people back in the day. Many people over the years have speculated on them being extremely haunted, and video footage like this definitely helps add fuel to that fire. The following footage was found on a video recorder deep in the catacombs several years ago.
It's very bizarre. These arrows point in a direction. Occasionally also he stops to photograph roomfuls of bones, which means that he's very deep inside the catacombs. So basically he's filming what he's seeing very deep inside the catacombs, other than the point of view shots or pictures of human bones. The catacombs for centuries.
So my dude is deep inside the catacombs, as the narrator of that clip says. All of a sudden though, things start going wrong.
Decide which way to run among all the many different corridors. He's running faster and faster and faster, deeper and deeper into the catacombs. And all of a sudden,
now we don't actually know why he started running, but he just did. Clearly something was chasing him that we can't see on the camera. This is truly all we know though. What was after him and if he managed to survive, that's anyone's guess.
Number 5, 11BX137. A gadget blog named Gadgets with 2 Z's caught international viral attention after they received an exceedingly strange, mysterious CD sent to their address. The blank gold CD has a series of letters and numbers written on it, and no other markers denoting what it could be. The contents of the CD when played are very confusing to say the least, strange and downright horrifying. A hooded figure dressed like a bubonic plague doctor, standing menacingly in what looks like a burnt out, destroyed remnant of a building. He just sorta appears to be standing and communicating in some kind of code. Wandering, posing, revealing a blinking light emanating from the palm of his hand. Its hand, maybe? This thing does kind of have SCP-049 vibes. After about a minute, the hooded figure faces the wall, where he stays for the remainder of the video. But where the video goes from creepy to I might never sleep again levels of horrifying is that when you run the audio through a spectrogram, a fancy word for a visualization of sound, images begin to appear of tortured bodies and a chilling threat spelling out, "You are already dead." That's the kind of thing you'd love to receive in the mail unmarked. Internet sleuths the net over came together to try and uncover and unmask this nefarious figure in the terrifying video. Now, if it's any comfort for you, the images found in the spectrogram appear to be excerpts from low-rent horror movies, and people found screen captures that matched up pretty well. Speculation ran wild as to what this video could possibly mean. Was there a secret message or a threat behind its cryptic codes? Was it just an advertisement for something? Or just a bored artist trying to get somebody's attention the only way he knew how? Well, eventually, someone did come forward. A man by the name of Parker Warner Wright claims to be the plague doctor in the video, and said the reason for the video was nothing more than an art project to entertain and confuse people. Like most cryptic, scary artists, when he was asked about why the video was made, all he had to say was, "I see my work as waves on the oceans. Thanks."
Number 4 on this list is Trump's hush payments. Donald Trump was accused of a lot of stuff during his rise to presidency, and these tapes would have proved a lot of it. Grunge says the Trump presidency has occasionally felt like a never-ending string of scandals, all being woven messily together by a drunk seamstress. But a small handful of threads keep emerging, one of the biggest of which is whether Trump paid off an adult model, Karen McDougal, to keep her from publicizing the fact that they'd had an affair. According to the New York Times, the FBI already knows the answer to this and has known since agents raided the offices of Michael Cohen, Trump's lawyer, in the summer of 2018. One of the goodies they netted in the raid was audio tapes of Trump discussing those underhand payments. If these tapes were held by the FBI for some time, then this is big news because this was obviously a really bad look for the president and would have fallen under some financial violations for sure. This also begs the question, how many other tapes of former presidents the FBI has had and held onto without showing the public?
Number 3, Croatian stalker. Do you ever feel like someone might be watching you? I know I do, quite a lot, although it could be because someone is watching me right now, you're watching me right now, but I also just mean in my day-to-day. It's spine-chilling to imagine that somebody's following you without you realizing for gosh knows what and trailing you around, preventing you from feeling safe. This next video, appropriately and concisely titled Croatian Stalking Tape, is a footage of 2 men recording themselves being pursued by a masked stranger. And according to the uploader, this was the last time either of them were ever seen. The video was uploaded not by anyone in the video, but rather a third party who somehow got a hold of it. And the only evidence we can find for it is that he claims it was recorded in 2005 and is a piece of evidence in a missing persons case for these 2 individuals. In the video, we can clearly see the 2 friends initially enjoying a night on the town together when they're apprehended by a very strange man wearing a sack over his head. You know, normal stuff. At first, the sack-clad man appears, well, I don't want to say friendly per se, but he's not outwardly hostile. Just bizarre, slouching and bending and walking in a way that kind of intones that either it's not a human or it's a human who's had a really long night. The 2 friends then try their best to elude the pursuer, who does not seem keen on letting them go. They try to lose him by making their way to a hotel lobby, where they proceed to call for an elevator to try and find some respite from their stalker, only for the elevator door to open and show them the last thing they could have ever wanted to see, as they are face to face with the sack man and the doors close. If the video uploader is to be believed, this could really be the last thing they ever saw. It was hard to try and find any more information about this video. I did some digging, but I couldn't get any solid answers as to where this came from, who these people were, and if they really went missing. There's some speculation that it could be a very elaborate fake, which is always a possibility. Let me know if anybody's got any intel on this one. Number 2, video dating. Hey, dating is hard. We've all been there. Let me tell you, since that Dahmer show dropped on Netflix, it's not been easy for me. In today's world, it can be so hard to meet that perfect match, especially if you're on the brink of sanity. This video, uploaded and titled Video Dating Tape, was allegedly found in the VCR purchased at a car boot sale, which, if you're not familiar with that term, it's kind of like an English flea market where you sell stuff out of your cars. The VHS is a low-quality clip of someone innocently enough trying to prevent themselves for a video dating service. It starts with a 36-year-old man, Tony, kind of awkwardly explaining what he's all about. You know how they go. We've all been there. Where it starts to get unsettling, though, is the discordant screaming that we can hear in the background. And the guy in the video seems like he's mentally degrading very fast.
Someone that can
He starts smacking himself in the head in frustration, tripping over his words, and accidentally revealing probably a lot more than he means to. Especially when he starts to say funny, flirty little things like, "I'm looking for someone who doesn't mind disappearing for a long time," and cute little sweet nothings like, "I'm looking for someone who likes a long walk on the beach and someone I can spend the rest of their life with." Now the video is almost too perfect, you know? And the only thing that makes you wonder if maybe it's not a fake is just how convincingly creepy this 36-year-old bachelor is acting. If anyone has got some answers for this one, please let me know, because this one really did send a chill down my spine trying to watch it. And hey, if anyone wants, at the end of the video, Tony left his address if you'd like to reach out to him if you like pina coladas getting caught in the rain and want to spend the rest of your life with him. Number 1. Sad Satan. Sad Satan is a deeply mysterious, lost video game, allegedly emanating from the dark web. And it's wrapped in intrigue and controversy and has all the makings of a great classic internet urban legend. The game first came into the mainstream when the owner of the now defunct Obscure Horror Corner YouTube channel was sent a link to this strange game, with the sender saying that they found it on a deep web page where users could post random files. The actual game's contents are deeply disturbing and unsettling. It truly feels like something you were never meant to see. There's not a whole lot of depth to the gameplay. It just features the player wandering down maze after maze of monochromatic hallways. A strange audio plays all around you from all sorts of sources, like an old Swedish number station, disembodied, blood-curdling screams. In some versions of the game, there are enemies that appear to be ghostly children figures standing in the maze with you. Images flash repeatedly through the gameplay, featuring pictures of notorious criminals. Audio from recordings of criminals like Charles Manson can be heard and seen. The game ends rather abruptly. If you run into any of the haunted children in the game, they'll end you and the game will be over. The mystery behind Sad Satan is arguably bigger than the game itself. Where did it come from? To date, no one truly knows who developed it or why or what their intentions even were. After the game became big thanks to the Obscure Horror